It's almost holiday season, and every year I tend to hear the same question. Should I bring my elderly parent home or to a family member's home to celebrate the holidays? Or even to take them out of a facility so they can come home for the holidays and be with family? It sounds like a pretty simple question, right? And you might be asking, why do we even need to talk about this? But there are actually so many layers to making a good decision here. So let's break it down together. Hi there, I'm Sophia. I make weekly videos to help you support your aging parents with the best information, resources, and mindset strategies so that you can have a peaceful and purposeful parent care experience and not have any regrets. Okay, so let's take a look at this easy but complex question. There are 5 areas that you should consider looking at before having your parent home for the holidays. And I'd say the first thing to consider before making any plans is about your parents' current health and their abilities. And I know we all want to picture them sitting around the family table and laughing and celebrating with the family. But you also need to be realistic in what they're capable of doing right now. And there are 3 parts to this: the physical, the cognitive, and the emotional aspects. The most obvious of these 3 is their physical health. Are they pretty mobile, or are they struggling to get around? Maybe they use a walker or a wheelchair. And that's usually not a problem if they are in their own nursing home or assisted living, or even in their own home where everything is already set up for them. But bringing them into a new home environment, especially one that might not exactly be senior friendly, it can create a challenge, like maybe in another family member's home. For example, if your parent is unsteady, then stairs can really be a huge issue. Even just the transition from the car into the house can be a bit tricky. Do you have a way to help them if they need it? Are there steps that lead up to the front door? And what about a railing? These things might not seem like a big deal until you're standing there going, oh, what are we going to do now? I remember years back going to a holiday dinner at a family member's house out of town in their fancy new house up on the hill. I'd never been there before, but I had no idea that to get to their front door, I'd say there was about 20 stairs straight up. And there was a family member there, an elderly lady who was in a wheelchair. And I can't necessarily remember now why it was not an option to go into another entrance into the house, but it wasn't. So what happened? 4 men in the family picked up her wheelchair and carried her and the chair up to the front door. And I remember seeing her face and the look of sheer terror on her face. She was really scared, and it wasn't easy for the men, and it could have easily been a disaster, but luckily it wasn't. So try to determine if what's going on with your parent could make their physical environment more difficult. For example, let's say our parent had a hard time lifting their feet and they walked with a shuffle, then even 1 or 2 steps can really be difficult for them. Think about what else is physically going on with your parent. Another story, another time my family was trying to do a holiday in Lake Tahoe for a few days. And at the time, my dad was about 90 years old. And it took me a lot of planning for more than 20 of us to come together from all over. There was one thing I didn't think about, and my poor dad, with his CHF and breathing problems, couldn't handle the 6,000-foot altitude. He was so short of breath and weak that he didn't even last a day, and he had to turn around and be taken home. And I felt so horrible that I didn't think about that. Next up, let's talk about your parents' cognitive health. Does your parent have dementia or Alzheimer's disease, even mild memory loss, or confusion can make a new and busy environment really disorienting. I mean, think about it. Going from a place where they're comfortable into a noisy, busy setting with people that they might not recognize, it could cause your parent a lot of stress or maybe even fear. So if you notice normally that your parent gets a little agitated or confused in unfamiliar places, then bringing them home might not be the best plan. Holidays they're often chaotic with a lot of people and talking and loud music, sometimes kids running around. It could be really overwhelming, even if it's a place that they once knew well. Finally, let's think about their emotional state. Some older adults might be really happy about the idea of getting together and seeing family for the holidays. Others might be nervous or even kind of sad. There's a lot of emotions tied up in these holiday gatherings, and to some of our parents, facing a lot of family members could actually bring up feelings of loss or even shame if they are not as healthy as they used to be. So include them in the decision whether or not to take this trip home for the holidays, because they might not be emotionally up for it, and honor what they decide. The next area we're going to look at are safety considerations, of course. So now we've talked about health. Let's go ahead and talk about safety. I mean everything from how they're going to get to the gathering and how safe they're going to be once they get there. The actual logistics of the plan. So let's start with the basics. Transportation. How are they going to get there? Are you driving them yourself, or do you need a special transport? If your parent is in a wheelchair, think about how they're going to get in and out of the car if that's something that you're not used to doing. Consider whether or not you need to rent a wheelchair van. And remember, it might not be a short trip. Sometimes these family gatherings can be hours away. Is that something that your parent can handle comfortably? Or will you need to take a break and stop every hour? What about flying? Are they wearing incontinence products? What if they have a BM on an airplane? It would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to change them in that situation. And once they're at their destination, is the home or the venue set up for someone with limited mobility or disabilities? Are there handrails on the stairs? Is there a bathroom on the main floor that is accessible? Do you need to bring portable ramps to use on the single steps within the home? Are there throw rugs or clutter in that environment that might be a tripping hazard? Or what about pets that might get underfoot and cause a fall? And if the home is in a cold or icy area, just the walk from the car to the house could be a real hazard. These might seem like small details, but they can make or break an experience for your parent and for you as their caregiver. Lastly, we're going to talk about their medical needs. If you are used to providing care to your parent, this might not be as a big a deal because you're used to it. But if your parent usually lives elsewhere, or if they live in an assisted living or a nursing home, and you're taking them home for the holiday, these might be things that you are not used to and that you're not familiar with really what their needs are and how to manage them. Do they take medications at a specific time every day? Are they going to need help with that? Some of our parents have very complex medical needs, like monitoring their blood sugar and giving injections or monitoring their oxygenation levels. Are you comfortable handling that? Do you have all the supplies that you need? And if your parent is coming from a facility, make sure you check in with the facility far in advance and request training and education on your parent's medication regimen and other things that you need to know. When I worked in a long-term care facility and family wanted to take their parent home for the holidays, I always recommended that at least 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time, at least 2 people in the family came in to get trained to review their medications, to make sure the family knew how to transfer them safely in and out of the car. And If there was something like a feeding tube or a colostomy bag or a trach, the family really needed training on how to take care of that and time to practice while in the facility before they took the parent out on their own. I know this sounds like it might be a lot, but remember that these details, they can mean the difference between a safe and comfortable experience over the holidays and one that leaves them and you feeling exhausted and stressed out. So we've covered health and we've covered safety. Here's something that doesn't get as much attention: routine. And let me tell you, for many of our elderly parents, routine is everything. When you live in a nursing home or an assisted living, life tends to be pretty structured. Even for seniors who live at home, their meals and activities and sleep schedules are probably pretty consistent. This might sound boring to us, but for someone with dementia, for example, that kind of predictability brings a lot of comfort. Suddenly, breaking that routine by taking them out to a holiday gathering can cause a lot of stress and maybe agitation. For some of our parents, being around a lot of people out of the routine can cause confusion or maybe even panic. They may not remember where they are or understand what's going on around them. And that can be really hard to manage. So try to keep things familiar to them. If you do decide to bring them home, think about ways to keep some of their routine intact. Can you bring along a favorite blanket or a pillow or photos from their room that are familiar? Maybe keep their meal times and medication schedules the same. These small things can help keep a sense of familiarity in an otherwise really busy, frantic day. All right, let's switch gears for a minute and talk about the emotional and social side of this decision. Family time is precious, especially during the holidays. For many of our parents, being surrounded by family, it's uplifting and truly brings them joy. But we also have to recognize that sometimes it can also be really overwhelming. There is no doubt that spending time with family can make an elderly parent feel loved and valued. Seeing the grandkids and the great-grandkids and hearing everyone laughing and just feeling the holiday spirit can really be a positive thing. If you know that your parent thrives in these settings, then this could be a really great time for them. But on the other hand, too much stimulation could be hard. I mean, think about it. You know your holiday gatherings. They can get noisy with multiple conversations and music and kids running around. If your parent has hearing loss, they may find it hard to follow the conversations, which can make them feel isolated or frustrated. And if they have dementia, a crowded, noisy environment can actually be disorienting or agitating or scary for them. One really good idea is to create a quiet space for them separate from all of the chaos. Maybe set up a bedroom or a cozy chair way off in another corner where it's a little quiet, where they can retreat to if things get a little loud or they get a little overwhelmed. And if you feel that they're most comfortable in this quiet area, then consider having them stay there for most of the day and have the family members go to them, maybe 2 or 3 at a time. Each group of people can sit and visit a while, they can play, they can sing, or do whatever they like, or even exchange gifts quietly. Think of it more like doling out the holiday festivities, small doses at a time throughout the day, at a level that is much more tolerable for your parent. And the fifth thing to think about before deciding this is to touch on something that's sometimes even harder than the logistics, is managing the expectations of all of your different family members. There is often a lot of pressure from relatives who want to see your parent. But here's the thing. You know your parent. You know them better than anyone, and you understand their needs. So it's okay to prioritize your parents' comfort. I would recommend having a talk with family members well ahead of time. if it's possible. Explain what's realistic and what isn't. Maybe they're hoping that your parent can stay all day, but you know that that's going to be too much. So just let them know. And you can tell them, we will come for a couple of hours, but then we're going to need to leave and head out so mom doesn't get too tired. Setting those expectations and boundaries up front can help everyone understand what the plan is and help support you in your plan. It's also good to have a backup plan in case you get busy cooking or managing the event. Someone who can tend to your parents' needs if you're not available. At the end of the day, the decision to bring your elderly parent home for the holidays isn't always an easy one. It's a loving one, but it's not always an easy one. It involves a lot of thought and planning, and ultimately the goal is to keep them safe and comfortable and happy and feeling loved during the holidays. So have any of you faced this decision? What worked and what didn't work? Leave your thoughts or any tips in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the little teeny tiny notification bell so you don't miss any new videos on everything aging parent related. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a beautiful holiday season. I'll see you next time.